Domestic violence advocates say the number of women fleeing to shelters from violent situations has tripled in one Northeast Ohio county in the past 7 years.
And News 5's Emily Hamilton found out that during that same time, funding for victims' programs was dwindling.
On a busy street in Lorain, a colorful reminder of the dark stories shared and cries for help behind these walls.
This is literally her life or death right here tonight.
Critical, time-sensitive situations that Lorain County shelters and law enforcement officers are struggling to deal with every day.
Domestic violence is our #1 violent call for service, unfortunately.
In Lorain, the problem is critical. An increased population here means more calls for help and strained resources to respond. But Lorain County has another issue. Genesis House is the only domestic violence shelter in the entire county, with just 16 beds to take in women, children, and men looking to escape a life-threatening situation at home. Virginia Beckman says they can't keep up with the demand.
You're constantly assessing for life or death situations. It's hard.
Making the choice of who to help and who to turn away all the more difficult.
But what's particularly maybe is the hardest thing is when we have to tell people that our shelter's full. And that's happened more these past 6 months than ever in our agency's history.
At Lorain County Community College, administrators are equally familiar with those life or death situations.
We had a woman whose ex took all of her belongings, threw them in the yard, and lit them on fire. She had nothing. She got herself and her kids, and her books were gone, her clothes were gone. She had nothing.
Tracy Maxwell believes a number of students there are struggling in silence, too scared to ask for help, feeling paralyzed at the emotional and financial costs of reaching out.
How can they deal with, how am I going to be independent? How can I, get away? How can I go to school? How can I take care of my kids?
Lorain County has a domestic violence task force with funding from donations, the county, the state, and the federal government.
We're trying to do much, much more with not much more funding.
But it's not enough. Those on the front lines fear funding cuts at the federal level could lead to more unserved victims.
Most of our victim service agencies in Ohio received about a 7% cut in funding this year.
Funding cuts so significant, Ohio Attorney General David Yost had to pull money from other state funds to keep shelters like Genesis House operational.
They've explained to us now our reserves are gone. We've used them. So next year, fully anticipate a much more significant cut in funding.
It's estimated that 70% less revenue is being generated for domestic violence response annually, a financial blow that Virginia Beckman says Lorain County simply can't afford.
When you look at the services that you offer and you say, which of these is disposable? There's none. It's all very much needed.
Emily Hamilton, News 5.